You are standing in that bathroom. The toilet flushed, you heard the water swirl, and then nothing. The bowl filled up instead of draining down. The water is sitting there higher than it should be, and you are just watching it, waiting to see if it will keep rising. Maybe you have company coming. Maybe it is 7 in the morning and the rest of the house is about to wake up and need that bathroom. The timing is never good. It is never a small deal in the moment. So you do what people do. You go looking for the plunger. And if you cannot find it, or if the plunger does not work, the next thought is already forming. I am going to have to call somebody. A plumber. Calling a professional plumber. On a weekend, maybe. That call can run you anywhere from $150 to $250 before the man even looks at the toilet. For a clog, a simple stubborn clog. A clog that has been sitting in your drain pipe since the last person flushed something that should not have been flushed. Now, what if you had something under that bathroom sink right now, something you probably already own, that could do the job while you drink your morning coffee? That is what I want to show you today. It costs about $2 if you do not already have it on hand. Chances are good you do. And the part that might make you just a little bit annoyed? It's a simple truth. The method is not new. It's an old way. It is not a trick somebody invented last year. The women who kept houses before dishwasher soap came in plastic bottles understood something about grease and water and the way things move through pipes. We just stopped passing it down. It was lost to time. People called me Birdie's girl growing up because I followed my mother Birdie everywhere she went in that farmhouse. I am Annie Hemingway, and I spent the first 20-some years of my life on a Blue Ridge Mountain homestead where you did not call a plumber any more than you called a taxi. When something backed up in that house, the sink, the drain, the toilet, my mother fixed it. She kept that farmhouse moving, and she did it with what was on the pantry shelf and what she already knew. I have kept my own home the same way for more than 50 years, and I want to pass some of that along to you. This kind of knowledge deserves to keep moving from one generation to the next. That is the whole reason I am here, to share this with you. If what I share is useful to you, go ahead and subscribe. Join us here. There is a lot more where this comes from, and I put something new out every week. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and have you ever had a toilet back up on you at the worst possible time? I read every single comment that comes in. I really do. Now, the reason dish soap works on a clogged toilet is not magic, and it is not a coincidence. Let me explain it plainly, because if you understand what is actually happening, you will trust the method and you will use it right. A clog in a toilet is almost always a mass of material, waste, paper, sometimes both, that has wedged itself into the trap. The trap is the curved section of pipe behind the toilet bowl, the part you cannot see, shaped like a long S or a P depending on the toilet. That shape is there on purpose. It holds a little water at all times so that sewer gases cannot come back up into the house. But that same curve is also where clogs like to settle in and sit. The problem is not that the material is too big to move. The problem is that it is stuck. It's wedged tight. It has lodged against the sides of that pipe, and the water pressure from one flush is not enough to push it through. The clog does not need to be dissolved. It needs to be loosened and lubricated so that gravity and water can do what they are supposed to do. Dish soap is a surfactant, a powerful one. You do not need to remember that word, but here is what it means in plain terms. Dish soap is designed to break the bond between grease and surfaces. It gets in between things and makes them slippery, very slippery. When you pour dish soap down into that bowl and let it sit, it works its way down into the trap, coats the sides of the pipe, and starts to work on whatever is lodged in there. The clog does not fight the water anymore. It slides. Simple as that. This is the same principle my mother used when she had a drain sluggish from grease buildup in the kitchen sink. She did not pour chemicals down it, not in that house. She used a little soap and hot water, and she let time do the work instead of force. Force is what the plunger is, pressure applied from outside. What we are talking about is coaxing something loose from the inside. That is a different approach entirely, and for the right kind of clog, it is more effective. The key phrase there is the right kind of clog. I will be straight with you about what this method handles and what it does not, because that matters more to me than having you think I am promising something I cannot deliver. We will get to that honestly and plainly. But first, let me walk you through exactly what to do. The materials, the amounts, the order, and the timing. Because the method is simple, and the details are what make it work. What you need is dish soap. Plain liquid dish soap, the kind that sits next to your kitchen sink right now. Dawn is fine. Any store brand is fine. You're not looking for anything special, nothing antibacterial, nothing with added bleach or scrubbing beads. Just plain liquid dish soap, just simple soap. A bottle runs about $2 at any grocery store or big box store, and you will not use much of it for this. You also need hot water, plenty of it. Not boiling. I want to be clear about that before we go any further, because pouring boiling water into a porcelain toilet bowl can crack it. The porcelain cannot take that kind of sudden temperature shock. What you want is the hottest water that comes out of your tap, or water that you have heated on the stove and then let sit for 3 or 4 minutes to come off the full boil. It should be hot enough that you cannot hold your hand in it comfortably, but not rolling boiling water straight from the pot. A gallon is enough, a full gallon. That is all you need. 2 things, dish soap and hot water. Start with the soap. Get it ready. Take your dish soap and pour about half a cup of it directly into the toilet bowl. Do not flush. Don't touch that handle. Now walk away for 15 minutes. This is the part people want to skip, and it is the part you cannot skip. Now walk away for 15 minutes. Just walk away. This is the part people want to skip, and it is the part you cannot skip. The soap needs time to work its way down through the water in the bowl and into the trap. It is not instant. It is slow and it is patient, and that patience is what makes it work. The soap is coating the inside of that pipe, working its way around the edges of whatever is lodged in the trap, and making everything slippery. 15 minutes is the minimum. If you can give it 20 or 25, that is better. Come back after that wait. Time for the next step. Now take your hot water, your gallon of hot tap water or your cooled down stove water, and pour it into the bowl slowly and steadily from about waist height. Not a slow trickle, but not a panicked dump either. Pour it in a controlled, even stream. The height helps create a small amount of pressure, and the heat helps the soap keep working as everything moves down into the trap together. Then wait again, just a bit more patience. Another 10 minutes, almost there now. Sit on the edge of the tub if you want. It's a waiting game. This part is not exciting, but it is necessary. It is just time doing its work. The slow magic of soap. After that second wait, try flushing. Let's see what happens. What you are hoping to hear is the toilet drain properly, the water pulling down and away cleanly the way it should. If the clog was a partial one or a soft one, you will hear it go. The bowl will drain, a clear path at last. The flush will complete the way it is supposed to. If it drains but slowly, or if the water drops but the bowl does not clear fully, repeat the process. Another half cup of soap, another 15-minute wait, another slow pour of hot water. Some clogs need 2 rounds. That is not a failure. It means the clog is loosening and you are almost there. Now, here is where I want to be straight with you, because that matters more to me than sounding like I have an answer for everything. This method works well, very well, on the kind of clog that the toilet sees most often. Soft organic material, too much paper, a partial blockage that is lodged in the trap and slowing the drain. For that kind of clog, this is as good as anything you are going to do without tools, and better than most people expect. There are clogs this will not fix. A hard foreign object, a toy, a toothbrush cap, something solid and rigid that physically cannot be coated and slipped through the pipe. That is not a soap problem. Soap cannot move something that is wedged in there by shape. If someone in your house flushed something hard, you need a different tool. An auger, sometimes called a toilet snake, can reach into the trap and hook or break up that kind of blockage. A good one runs about $25 to $30 at any hardware store and is worth owning if you have children in the house. A clog that is not in the trap at all, one that is deeper in the drain line past where the toilet connects to the main stack, that is also beyond what soap and water can reach. The sign of a deep-line clog is when more than one drain in the house starts backing up at the same time. If your toilet clogs on the same day your tub drains slowly and your bathroom sink is sluggish, the problem is not in the toilet. It is in the pipe those drains share, and you do need a plumber for that. Do not pour soap down 3 fixtures hoping for the best. That is the moment to make the call. But those situations are less common than people think. The everyday clog, the one that caught you off guard on an ordinary morning, that is what this handles, and it handles it well. One more thing I want to say plainly. If you pour the soap and the water in and the bowl fills higher instead of draining at all, stop adding water. You have a full blockage, not a partial one, and adding more liquid will just give you a bigger problem to deal with. Let the soap sit longer in that case, 30 minutes to an hour, and try again before you add any more water to the bowl. The method is patient. This is an important part of the process. You have to be patient with it. That is not a flaw. That is how it works, and it works very reliably every time. Fixing the clog that is sitting in your toilet right now is one thing. Keeping clogs from settling in there every few weeks is another, and that second part is where the real savings live. Because if you are dealing with a slow toilet or a partial blockage more than once or twice a year, the problem is not bad luck. The problem is buildup in your pipes. And buildup is something you can manage for almost nothing. My mother understood this the way she understood everything about the farmhouse. Not as a crisis to react to, but as a condition to stay ahead of. She did not wait for the drain to back up before she thought about the drain. She had a rhythm to how she kept things moving, and it cost her almost nothing because she was using what was already on the pantry shelf. Here is what I do now, and what I would suggest you try. Once a week, pick a night, the same night every week, so it becomes habit. Pour about a 1/4 cup of plain baking soda into the toilet bowl. Follow it with a cup of plain white vinegar. You will get a fizz. That fizz is the reaction between the baking soda and the acid in the vinegar, and what it does inside the pipe is gentle but useful. It loosens the early stage buildup on the inside walls of the trap before it has a chance to become a clog. Then follow that with a kettle of hot water, not boiling. Same rule as before. Let it sit off the boil for a few minutes and let the whole thing flush through. That is your maintenance routine. Baking soda costs about $1 a box at any grocery store. White vinegar runs about $2 to $3 for a large jug and will last you months. The whole weekly routine costs you pennies, and what it does over time is keep the trap clear, keep the pipe walls smooth, and keep the small accumulations from ever becoming the kind of blockage that stops your morning cold. You can keep a small mason jar of baking soda right there on the back of the toilet tank, sealed with a lid, and your jug of vinegar under the sink. That way, the routine takes 30 seconds and you never have to think about whether you have the supplies. They are already there waiting for the next time you need them. A sealed mason jar keeps baking soda dry and ready for months. That is the same logic my grandmother used for everything she wanted to keep stable on a shelf. Seal it, store it where you will use it, and it is always there when you need it. Now I want to step back from the toilet for a moment because there is something bigger sitting underneath all of this that I think is worth saying out loud. A plumber's service call for a basic clogged toilet runs anywhere from $150 to $250 in most parts of the country, sometimes more on a weekend or a holiday. The dish soap method I showed you costs $2 and 15 minutes of your time. The weekly maintenance routine costs maybe $3 for the whole year. The difference between those two numbers is not about skill. It is not about access. It is about knowledge, knowing that the fix exists and knowing how to do it. Nobody is going to run a television commercial for dish soap and baking soda. The margin is not there. The stores that sell you enzymatic drain cleaners in bright bottles for $12 a pour are not going to tell you that dish soap does the same job for a fraction of the cost. The companies that make plumbing service calls worth $200 are not going to post a video teaching you to handle the common stuff yourself. That is not cynicism. That is just the plain reality of how products get sold and services get priced. The old women in our hollow were not educated in chemistry. They did not have plumbers on speed dial because speed dial did not exist, and neither did the extra money for a service call on an ordinary day. What they had was knowledge, accumulated across generations, tested against real problems in real homes. They knew what worked because they had tried it, failed with it sometimes, adjusted, and tried again. That knowledge got passed from mother to daughter across kitchen tables and back porches and root cellars. It did not get packaged, it did not get marketed, it just lived in the people who carried it. And when that chain of passing down got interrupted, when the generation that grew up with those methods started buying the products instead of using the old ways, a lot of that knowledge went quiet, not gone, just quiet. It stopped moving forward the way it should have. The soap method works because it was always going to work. The maintenance routine works because it addresses the actual cause instead of the symptom. Neither of those things requires a product with a brand name on it. Neither of them requires a phone call to someone who charges by the hour. They just require knowing that they exist. My grandmother kept that farmhouse plumbing clear for decades with white vinegar, baking soda, and common sense. She never paid for what she could prevent, and she never called for help with what she could handle herself. That was the discipline of a woman who understood that a well-kept home does not drain your savings the same way a neglected one does. You have that same option right now. The supplies are cheap, the method is simple, and the only thing that was missing was someone telling you about it. There is one more thing to cover, the part where I pull it all together for you so you know exactly what to do and when, and I want to leave you with something that will stick past today. So here's what I want you to do this week. Not someday, this week. Go under your bathroom sink right now and check what you have. If you have dish soap, plain liquid dish soap, any brand, any bottle, you already have the main thing. If you do not have a jug of white vinegar and a box of baking soda somewhere in the house, add them to your grocery list before you forget. The total for both is under $4, and once they are in the house, they will last you the better part of a year. For the clog you are dealing with right now, or the next one that catches you off guard, half a cup of dish soap poured directly into the bowl, 15 to 20 minutes of waiting, then a slow, steady pour of 1 gallon of hot tap water from waist height. Wait another 10 minutes, flush. If it needs a second round, give it a second round. You have the time and the soap costs almost nothing. For your weekly maintenance, pick a night and keep it, a 1/4 cup of baking soda into the bowl, followed by 1 cup of white vinegar, followed by a kettle of hot water that has been off the boil for a few minutes. 30 seconds of your time, once a week, and your trap stays clear. Keep a sealed mason jar of baking soda on the back of the tank and your vinegar jug under the sink, so the routine is already set up and waiting for you. That is the whole thing. $2 of dish soap for the fix. $3 of baking soda and vinegar for the year, and none of the $150 phone calls that come from not knowing what you now know. I want to tell you something my mother told me when I was young because it belongs here. We had a winter. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, when the cold came in hard and early and the farmhouse took a beating from it. Pipes slowed, drains slugged up, and the toilet in the back bathroom stopped draining right sometime in the middle of February. It was cold enough that going outside was its own problem, and calling anybody to come out to the hollow was not a realistic thought. My mother looked at it the way she looked at everything, not as a disaster, but as a thing that needed figuring out. She had her dish soap. She had her hot water from the stove, cooled down the way she always did it. She poured, she waited, she poured again. She was not hurried about it. She hummed a little while she waited, standing in the doorway of that bathroom with her arms crossed, watching the bowl the way you watch a pot on the stove. The second round loosened it. The toilet drained clean, and she moved on to the next thing on her list without a word about it. What I remember is not the clog or the fix. What I remember is that she was not afraid of it. She did not stand there wondering who to call, or how much it would cost, or whether the problem was beyond her. She knew what to do because her mother had shown her, and her mother had learned it the same way. The knowledge sat in her hands as much as in her head. She reached for it without thinking, the way you reach for something that has always been in the same place. That is what I want for you. Not just the method for today's problem. The feeling of reaching for something and knowing it is there. The confidence of a person who keeps their home without fear of it. Because a home will always need tending. The pipes, the drains, the fixtures, the floors, they all ask something of you over the years. And the people who come through those seasons without spending a fortune are not the ones with the most money. They are the ones with the most knowledge. They know the cheap fix before they ever reach for the phone. They know what the problem actually is before they decide what it needs. They are not at the mercy of every bill that arrives because they can handle the ordinary things themselves. That was my mother. That was my grandmother before her. That is what I am trying to put back in your hands. What they had was knowledge, accumulated across generations, tested against real problems in real homes. The people who find it useful tend to stay, and I am grateful for every one of them. Tell me in the comments what home problem has been costing you more than it should, the one you keep throwing money at without getting ahead of it. I read every comment and I take those suggestions seriously. More than one thing I have covered came straight from what someone told me in the comments. The next thing I want to show you connects to everything we talked about today. Keeping the pipes in your home clear and healthy costs almost nothing when you understand what is actually moving through them, and there is one habit that addresses 3 different drain problems at the same time with the same 2 ingredients already sitting under your sink. That is coming up next, and it is worth staying for. My grandmother used to say that a house tells you what it needs if you learn to listen for it. She was right. You are listening now. That is already more than most people ever do, and it is exactly enough to make the difference.